Welcome to November's PSA with Chief Tony.
Hi, how you doing?
Great. We're recording this in the beginning of the month of November, and the NFPA has all different types of topics that they bring up every month for safety to let people know what they should be cautious of. And one of them for the month of November, with the holiday of Thanksgiving being in there, is cooking safety.
Yes, absolutely. One of the biggest issues that people have with cooking for Thanksgiving would be deep frying. Deep fryers aren't normally used throughout the course of the year. Some people aren't familiar with how to safely utilize them. There are a lot of facts online. NFPA.org, as you mentioned, has a lot of information available. But one of the biggest safety things that have to do with deep fryers would be using them not inside your house, not inside your garage, and far enough away from a structure in case a fire were to happen. Another important fact would be not putting a frozen turkey or a not fully thawed out bird into that oil, as it can cause spattering, and then that oil comes over the edge and catches on fire.
And some people prefer not to do the deep frying, and so now they're going to be using their oven. And the main thing there, I would think, is that you're aware of what's in there and you don't walk away from it.
Absolutely. Unattended cooking fires are some of the biggest issues that we have inside of kitchens, that either you forget about it or you get busy prepping something else, or maybe entertaining guests while you're working on it. Always making sure you have a set of eyes on what's going on. And that's important year-round for both our homes and apartment or condo living, is that we always need to be aware of what's going on our stovetop. It could be that something boils over, and if that's flammable, we need to treat everything like a grease fire, where we don't want to add water to it. Some extinguishers would be Class K rated, and instead of having a dry powder that comes out, it's more of a foaming agent that more safely puts the fire out without having all of the cleanup afterwards. There are other devices that you can use, but always, if you can prevent a fire, is more important than how to put it out afterwards. So keeping an eye on your cooking as you're going.
Do you recommend that people have a fire extinguisher in their kitchen?
Absolutely. So either directly adjacent to the kitchen, not maybe right next to your stove, so you can be a safe distance away. But yes, absolutely. And as I mentioned, those Class K extinguishers, there are some that are meant just for cooking fires. Some of them look like a small fire extinguisher. Some look like a large aerosol can, almost like a hairspray can, with a trigger that you press on top of it. But absolutely, having something near your kitchen is very important.
And those are readily available either at the big box stores or at your hardware store?
Yeah, absolutely. Any hardware store, really almost any kind of store that would sell fire extinguishers would have something for your cooking fires, absolutely.
Great. And leading into this, we're going to talk about child safety. One of those, obviously, since we just got done talking about cooking safety, is keeping that child away from the deep fryer, keeping the child away from the stove. Well, what are some other safety concerns that can happen inside the house for a small toddler?
Yeah, good point. So you touched on it, but keeping children away from any cooking is key, whether it be that deep fryer outside or just your standard Tuesday night when you're making mac and cheese on the stovetop. Keeping them away and getting them to understand that it can be hot at any point. Not every stove has a light on it, or you can see a flame when it's actually lit. So getting them to understand that. But there can be many other ways that small children can get injured. If you have a staircase in your house that doesn't have a gate across it, fall injuries are always a risk. Equipment like dressers that aren't attached to the wall. If you pull out maybe more than one or two drawers, that can fall over on them. So making sure you're using those securement straps so those are attached. Sometimes toddlers like to climb on things. So if you can get chairs pulled away so they're not close to countertops and they're not tempted to climb up on a counter to get to the sink or cupboard, wherever snacks are kept, lots of things you do to prevent injuries there.
And most people that are new parents know that there are safety concerns, and they make sure the outlets are covered. They can put locks on the cabinets so they don't get into chemicals, but just to be aware of once they're actually moving and grooving, they can kind of pry some of that stuff off.
Absolutely. Any kid that can move can open up almost anything.
Yeah.
And sometimes they get better at it than we can actually utilize it. So even medications have those safety-resistant tops on them where you have to depress it and push down and turn at the same time. But as people get older, if you have arthritis, sometimes they flip those caps open so they're easier to open, but any child can get into that then. So keeping that in a locked cabinet, making sure that that locking device, as you mentioned, they look like a large padlock, does fully lock, but keeping it out of reach would be the most important. So even if you have something that is over the counter like ibuprofen or Tylenol, and it's in a standard bottle in a medicine cabinet, if they hopped on top of a counter to get to it, that can be deadly to a child if they took a half a bottle or a full bottle of that. So just knowing where everything is kept once a child moves is key, because as you mentioned, they can get to almost anything.
If a parent is unsure that their child has ingested a chemical, what would be their first course of action?
Excellent question. So calling 911, get us moving, is a very important course of action. Next, you want to do a little bit of information gathering, and dispatcher is going to ask you this: what exactly was it that the child took? So if you can find a bottle, what if it was a liquid, maybe was it soap or hand soap? Was it a dishwashing pod? Pods can be very toxic to children, or even clothes washing pods can be very caustic. Finding out what it was, there is also a poison control number. Here in our area, we would call the local number, so it's 422-1222, and you can call that and figure out what their suggestion is, and figure out if you do need 911 or not. But again, by default, calling 911, get an ambulance moving, we can help out, figure out what the emergency is and how treatment needs to proceed from there.
Great. Well, thank you for this information today.
Absolutely.
And to our viewers, as always, thank you for watching.